You're very welcome to the Woman to Woman show here on Confident Women Ireland's YouTube channel with me, Roisin McClerick. We are continuing our series with Mary Curran. Mary is one of Ireland's most experienced coaches, trainers, and supervisors. Mary has worked full-time in the coaching profession since she qualified with the Life and Business Coaching Association of Ireland and Coach Bill, Nevada in the USA in 2001. Mary has an advanced diploma in supervision from the University of Middlesex, enabling Mary to supervise trainers, executive coaches, and directors. Mary's background is in public relations and marketing with the ESB. We are discussing the topics and issues relating to taking personal responsibility and accountability for actions and mindset, which is the key to the personal happiness and freedom and reclaiming your personal power. Taking personal responsibility and accountability is the root of your existence to desire and excel and on your own power and how you contribute to society. Mary Curran, you are very, very welcome back to Confident Women Ireland's YouTube channel. And I really love that intro because, again, I got it all from your book. Life Begins When You're Ready to Listen by Mary Curran. Mary, just before we start, how can people get source this book from you?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.com or Amazon.co.uk, or they can get it from Balboa Press, which is the publishing company, or they can get it by contacting me on the website because I have some books as well.
Brilliant. I just want to get that plug in before we start, and we'll do it at the end as well. And we'll put all that information in this book. I would highly, highly recommend this book. I love it. And exactly what the title says, Life Begins When You're Ready to Listen.
Thank you,
Mary, you're very, very welcome back. As we said in our intro, we've talked about values, we've talked about management versus leadership. So, and taking personal responsibility and being accountable for our actions. Not very many people know how to do that. Not very many people do it, but you recognize when you're in somebody's company, you know by just listening to them that they are taking personal responsibility and are accountable for their actions and mindset. So let's start with that, Mary. So tell us about that. What is taking personal responsibility and why is it so important?
Right. I think the main thing about taking personal responsibility is it gives you your power back. It gives you a choice in your life. When you are in company of people, and very much it's their language, if they're living in the past and they're blaming everything and everybody and events and occasions for where they are today, they're not taking personal responsibility at all for their life. And they're just in the game world. And I think I refer to a lot Cartman's triangle. It's a very important triangle where most of us, every one of us, travel on sometimes. And in his triangle, he says, all of us as adults can be either the rescuer, the persecutor, or the victim. And at different stages in our life, we enter that triangle. But to be very self-aware of ourselves, our goal is to stay off it as much as possible. So what I would say, anybody I know that blames others are very miserable. They don't feel in control of their lives. They're always looking for an opportunity to blame somebody else. Now, the question would be, I remember in supervision, we were asked, do you coach people that are in survival mode? And our supervisor said, a very good question. There's some strong coaches out there that can move people from survival mode into proactive mode, and then they'll take personal responsibility. However, you do need to be a strong, experienced coach, to do that. Because some people are very happy in the blame and victim world. They're getting attention. From others and family and friends. So it kind of is comfortable there. It's comfortable there. So you need a really, you really need a really good coach to be able to say, come on, let's face reality. And I also say this to them. I tune into the words and I say, you are talking now in the present moment, but you're using the words from the past. So are you living now in the past? And we are living now in the past. And you hear the language, I should have, could have, if only, if onlys are even negative. You know what I mean? They're not about if only I look at what I'm doing now, I can be better in it more a year from now. They don't use it that way. They use it. If you had my life, if you had what happened to me, you'd be where I am today. So it takes some strength for them as well to step outside the comfort zone, to step outside victimhood and move into being powerful and being strong and being responsible for the life they're in at the moment.
Mary, you sent me that triangle. Would you like me to share that triangle?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I will share that now. I'm not great at technology, as everybody who knows me knows, but I will wear a share screen because I think it's powerful. There.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So the persecutor, we can all be that at times. People that are perfectionists can be persecutors without a doubt. And even as a mother, and as we are, Roshan, we can, when I remember one time, I wanted my son to do something in particular. And I'm going to put my hand up. I was manipulating him because I wanted him to do something I wanted him to do at a certain time. And he said, stop persecuting me. So I was a persecutor, you know. So we can be there. I think the secret is to recognize you're doing it and then stop doing it, you know. Now, the other reason I mentioned about perfectionists, sometimes they're so strong in being a perfectionist that if you don't get it right, they're going to persecute you. And they'll
Yes.
come into work looking for the same thing again and again. And you're going to say, well, I do it a different way. I still get the results you're looking for, but I do it a different way. They mightn't want that. They might want it done the way they do it. So that's where the persecutor comes in. The next one, the rescuer. The rescuer is amazing now, and I'm not going to ever generalize, but a lot of people that are the rescuers can be the eldest in the family. You know, the eldest role. You know, the way we have this thing about the different roles we take on as children, and we take them on as adults as we go through life. And the rescuer, through my experience, even I can give an example, even when we'd be in the groups in the diploma and we'd be having a coffee break. I would spot on the first weekend who the rescuers were. They would go and get the milk and go around to everybody. Would you like some milk? Would you like some biscuits? And I'm going, they're either the eldest or they're playing the role of a rescuer. Now, I wasn't going to say that to them there and then, but often it would show up like they always like rescuing everybody.
Right.
Now this is to the extreme when it does affect us. So if you are a rescuer to the extreme, you don't value your own time.
Ah.
You're not valuing your own time and you are fulfilling a need to be loved by rescuing others and probably fulfilling that need in a way that drains you, not fulfills you. So this is what's really important to recognize. Now, there's nothing wrong in somebody being the rescuer at times. You know, saving somebody or, you know, preventing something to happen. It's okay. When I'm going through this triangle, I'm really talking about extremes here, you know, being the persecutor to the extreme or being the rescuer to the extreme, you know. So again, it's about being aware. And the rescuers, when they don't value their time, they need to ask themselves the question, when I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? But they also need to look at what needs are being met in a way that drains them. And they need to ask, how can I fulfill that need in a way that will fulfill me rather than drain me? So that's the rescuer. And then the victim, you know, every one of us, there's nobody in this world that hasn't been a victim at some stage. Their handbag was stolen or, you know, something happened. They were, I was only recently with Revolut, somebody got money out of my account and I nearly died. But I mean, I was a victim and I was caught in a very vulnerable day. You know, I was visiting my uncle in a home, then I was visiting my husband in a hospital, and they rang me as if they were Revolut and money was sitting out my account. And I remember thinking, my heavens, but the only thing is, we all can be victims, but we need to accept it happened, learn from it, and move on. The people that are victims and stay there, stay being a victim, is what causes the problem because they are getting attention from others, but at the same time, they're not dealing with what has happened and moving on with the learning from it, you know? So that's really the triangle in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And I probably went on a bit about that,
No,
Ron.
I really, because it was, I really sort of was thinking about that, the rescuer. All
Yeah.
we, and yeah, because we've all been that at some stage in our lives. You know, I can relate to that.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's really,
yeah.
and I like that the persecutor always looking for perfection. There's no such thing as perfection.
No.
You know,
As you know, in code, we always say better than the best. Like we're always striving to get better and better and seeing the best. in
Yeah.
others as well as ourselves. So yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's a very interesting one. But when people are on that triangle, they can't take personal responsibility for their lives. Can't.
It's getting off the it's like getting off the merry-go-round. It's getting
Yes.
off the triangle as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. They need to get off it and take responsibility. Because sometimes people would say to you, I have no choice. You'll often hear them saying, I don't have any choice. The reality in life is there are only two things we don't have a choice about. And that's paying our taxes and dying. They're the two things. They're the only two
We
things.
don't.
After that, everything is a choice. Everything is a choice. You're making a choice to do something or you're making a choice to ignore something, but you're making a choice. And I'm sure, Roshan, you know, when we're coaching somebody and let's say they're telling us what they want to achieve, they've given the name of the goal specifically. But then when you start drilling down and asking them, so how are you going to get there? You know, what needs to happen for this to happen? They start going, I suppose I'll have to do this. And I suppose that, but they're not in control of their life at all. Because having to, and it's going through their head, they're not in control. So I would say, hold on, we're not achieving that goal unless you start taking choices and being in
Yes.
your own power and choosing to take these steps. You're choosing to go to the gym. You're choosing to do this because the result is what you want.
Yes.
So yeah, so people that use the language of I can't, I have to, they're all people in victimhood.
Right. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
must stop using them words. I can't and I have to.
Yeah, I'm moving
Yeah.
to I choose to. It's so important, you know,
I
because
choose.
choosing to gives us that power and we go up in energy. Whereas if you do the same task and you feel I have to do this, you're going to go down in energy straight away.
So change the words from I have to I choose to.
Yeah. And it gives you your power back.
I
It's
like
an
that.
interesting one. I'm not qualified in kinesiology, but when I was qualifying in NLP, they had kinesiology to show us the muscle test. And when
Yes.
you said something that you had to do, and you said, "Oh, I have to do it," your arm went down. No matter how strong you are, your arm went down. And when you changed it to, "I choose to do this," your arm stood up, and they couldn't go down. They couldn't put it down. Couldn't put it down. It's amazing, amazing.
Well, that's really interesting. So
Yeah, yeah,
the next step, you said to me, we'll talk about failing to accept personal responsibility, and we can become over dependent on other people's opinions.
yes. We value other people's opinions more than our own. And I always have a lovely affirmation around that, which is I honor and value my own opinion and respect the opinions of others. That's somebody that has personal responsibility. But if you're someone that doesn't take personal responsibility, sometimes you allow their opinion matter more than your own opinion. Yeah. So
And
they're
the
not true.
recognition. We don't, if you take personal responsibility, you're not looking for recognition outside yourself either, instead of always looking for that from other
Yeah.
people. Talk
Well,
to
I
me about
remember
that.
one time they saying, the only value and the only one you never need to get from other people is the value of approval, because the only one that can give you that is yourself. You can
Yes.
give yourself approval. Don't look for it from others, because I absolutely know the choice I made in life years ago. If I was to wait for the approval of others, I wouldn't have done half the things I've done.
I
Half the
wouldn't be here today.
I wouldn't be here today. I would not, no. So waiting on that approval, you really, and that's all linked with you love the area of values and everything, and being able to stand over your opinion and over your choice and say, no, I see it this way, and I'm agreeing that I'm going to go with it that way. I honor your opinion, but I'm going to go what feels good for me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to do something like that recently. Somebody wanted me to do something, really wanted me to do something, and I knew the time wasn't right for me, and I said no. I chose to say no. I
Yes.
use that word. I chose to say no,
Yes.
and it was the right thing for me to say no. Although it was, I was this much about away from saying yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I still chose to say no.
Yeah. And of course, in communication, we always say communication is the response you get. So it's how you say and communicate that no. Because some people are very terrified of saying no.
Yes.
We're terrified of. I remember the first few times I did it in my life, I was shocking myself. I was going, look, and I actually said no. Oh my God, I actually said no. But I felt really good because I knew I was honoring my time, or I was honoring whatever it was at the time. Because when we don't, we are going to be eaten up inside. We will
Yeah.
not have peace and harmony.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's really cool too, isn't it? Is when you take personal responsibility and you're accountable for your mindset, that's where you get that personal power of saying no.
Yes,
When, you know, you think you should say yes and be a yes person, but when you say no for you,
yes,
that's
yes,
personal power,
yes, it is. It
what you
really
talk
is.
about.
I'm so strong about that. It's so important. And I always say to people, I would never say to somebody to be aggressive. What I'm asking them to do is to be assertive and true to their own values, and being able to say, if it doesn't work out, if it's not sitting right, to be able to say no.
Yeah. And you also talk about, we talk about being dependent on recognition and approval from others, but acceptance. That we don't look for acceptance from groups or friends, because you're accepting yourself when you take personal responsibility.
Yeah, yeah, you're able to. You don't need to prove yourself. The need to prove yourself is gone. You don't need
Yeah,
to prove yourself to others because you believe in your own power and in your own decisions and in your own choices. So yeah, you don't need that approval from others, which is a very sad one when people seek approval from others, because
yeah,
sometimes you'll get it and sometimes you won't. And people that don't have personal power as well, they don't receive feedback very well because they always take it personally. They always think the feedback is personal when it's not. It's about their work, but they will take it personally because they haven't reached the stage of owning up to, well, I did cause this. I need to look at this. That my behavior did make that happen. Whereas like when you take personal responsibility, you're well able to say, I made a mistake there. I really
mm,
would admit it. I made a mistake, didn't see what I was doing. Can we talk about this and make the difference that's going to be the positive change in front of us? So yeah, it's so interesting when you don't take personal. It's like I always say when you don't take personal responsibility, it's like you're living in a shadow of who you are, a shadow of yourself.
I like that.
Yeah, you are a shadow of your true potential. Because you're not coming out and being clear and honest. You're hiding.
Yeah, and that's where you say in your book, and we're coming back to your book, and I actually, I'm one of those people that a lot of people don't like. I write notes in books. Mary, forgive me. But that's what you said in the last chapter, in the last second last page, page 60 in your book. You said the root of your existence is your desire to excel, and you have your own potential, and you contribute to society. I love that.
Well, I thoroughly, utterly believe that. Really believe it so strongly. We're meant to excel in this life. We are not meant to survive. Victims feel we're here to survive. People that take personal responsibility believes we're here to thrive. Big difference. Big, big difference. We are meant to be, because when we give our best, others receive our best. So it's kind of like a domino effect. And when you come from the best, you're coming from the heart of who you are. And that can
Yeah.
only be love, and that can only be brilliancy. And when you give that to others, people know straight away. When you do it, I always think about the hairdresser that I didn't go to anymore. She got too used to me and she became complacent. And I remember this time I was going, and like, I know you're meant to sit up straight, not cross your legs when you're getting your hair cut. I know a few things at this stage about your hair.
Yeah, but
But she got so used to me that what really got to me was she was chewing gum. She was talking to another person while she was half doing my hair. I was kind of going, she's just gone now to the top of being complacent. Like I'm just someone that comes through all the time. But we know when somebody isn't given their best. And we
yeah,
also know when somebody is giving their personal best to you, because you're treating them, as you said before, in the present moment. You're with them, you're alert, you're listening, and you're there. You know what I mean? People know when you give your best, without
yeah.
doubt. You
And
know.
people know when you're present with them.
Yeah. Mm.
It's like that person who doesn't take personal responsibility. They walk into a room and they scan the room, and they're
Yeah.
talking to you, but they're actually scanning the room.
True. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
And in scanning that room, like even looking at people, you can see what they value. I'm not saying you know all their values, but you'll see some of their values and what way they dress, whatever way, anything. I mean, charisma is all about being visible. And some people are known for the hat they wear, somebody else is known for something else. And these are all little clues we can take up, when we go in and we look around the room. But the other really important thing is to hang around, and I give this credit to Brian Tracy. I always remember saying, him telling us the story, you can come on my training course for 3 days and love it and then leave. But if you continue hanging around with people that blame each other and others for the trouble they're in, after doing my course, you'll go back to being like them very quickly. So
Yes.
it's the awareness is about who do you hang out with? You are who you hang out with. So if you
Yes.
hang out with lovely, positive people, then the chances are that's what you're going to be, your life's going to be full of, you know, really. And I mean, realistically positive people. I'm not talking about
Yeah.
optimism into the extreme or anything. I'm just saying, but like, absolutely, we are the people we hang around with.
It's like what my grandmother used to say, and I'm sure your grandmother said it. Show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are.
Oh, I remember that so well, that
Remember
expression.
that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so true. It's so,
Yeah.
so true. And the older you get, you realize it because, oh, yeah, I often do an exercise, tolerations and boundaries in your life. You know, what are you tolerating? Because people sometimes rush to do boundaries, but you can't set boundaries unless you know what you're tolerating. So I
Yes.
always work backwards and say, let's look at what you're tolerating first, then we set the boundaries, you know. But some of us, and I think and I shouldn't assume, but Roshan, you know, the book Energy Vampires is brilliant.
Yes.
And it's all about when you walk away from somebody that you meet for lunch or whatever, for coffee, whatever. When you walk away, do you feel happy? Immediately, do you feel happy? Do you look forward to seeing them again? Do you feel it was a lovely, fruitful week or a lunch? Or do you walk away and say, I am so drained. I am exhausted. All I did was allow that person dump on me.
Yeah. Yes.
So we have them in our family. We have them in our, I don't have them in my friends because Lord of Mercy and Dr. Wayne Dyer always said,
I loved him.
God gives you your friends to make up for your family. And what I mean by that is we can choose our friends. Yeah. So we can, yeah. No, I would have been starting on the word of coaching. I was so excited about the world as being one of the first. And I was so, I wanted to help everybody all of the time. But I learned very quickly there were people taking me out for lunch, and all they were really doing was bleeding, like trying to get everything out of my head, and I'm kind of going, they're taking advantage of me here, but I'm allowing it to happen. Now that's where you take personal responsibility. I was allowing it to happen, and it was only because of my over enthusiasm about the world of coaching. Whereas as you get into it and more wisely, you realize, I like to meet people because we are really good for each other. We participate in our conversations. We want to help each other, whatever. You know what I mean? So yeah, it takes a while to do that though.
Talk about that too, and then we're digesting, but I want to say this is important. I've been in several situations recently since our very first podcast, and where you said honesty with integrity, and we were talking about how integrity was about one of my values.
Yes.
And honesty, and you said honesty with integrity. I've used that so many times, and not talking about anybody if they're not in the room.
Yeah. That's one of my highest values, not being dishonest to the absent, not being, in other words, not talking about somebody when they're not there. I can't stand it in somebody.
Yeah.
And
I said that a couple of times.
Yeah. And over the years, I got in trouble when I was on committees. I got in trouble because I said, can you wait until they come into the room? Say it to them then, say it to the face,
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's another thing people will do if they're not taking personal responsibility. Yes. They will talk badly about a person that's not there, but they won't deal with it themselves.
Yes.
And that's not taking personal responsibility.
So I've done that since talking to you. I've actually been very proactive in those. I'm learning from you so much,
Well, I'm learning from you too, Roisin. I mean, you have great insight as well. I mean, I'm learning as well from you. And it's great because we're both very much into the world of coaching and we love what we're doing,
I think we genuinely love people. We not only love people, we like people, and we like humanity. And we want to see everyone just connect to themselves and be the true version of themselves, and not what is they're taken from the media, not taken from television. They're reconnecting to themselves. And when they do that, they contribute to society.
Yes, and it's all about, isn't it, that? I mean, it's all about meaning, purpose, and contribution. That's what I always think. You need to have a meaning, a purpose, but you need to want to contribute to the world. Like, I mean, the legacy, if I leave this world, if I can look back and say, I helped so many people. I don't like the word help. I empowered so many people because empowerment gives them their will and their responsibility. Whereas in counseling, you help people, which is understandable and notable. But what I'm saying is, I always like to look at their life has been a better place, and it probably affects their family as well because of the work we did together. And of course, it's the relationship between the two people as well.
And that's where you say it's about everybody's core, getting to the core is where they are really, really reaching their own true potential because they're connected to their values, they're connected to their belief systems, they're connected to the mindset, and then their emotions, actions, and behaviors to get the outcomes of being their true selves and their real selves. By personal responsibility.
Yeah, and it's amazing because training is different than coaching.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember one time I used to give talks years ago for the the women in business. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember they wanted me to do kind of a training in a particular area. And I looked down the agenda and I looked at what they were asking me to do, and I was going, but I'm just going to be passing on what it's training, it's telling. And I was going, I coach, I ask the questions, they get the answers, they feel empowered when they're leaving. So I actually asked them, can I change this around a little bit to get them interactive, to get them involved? And it worked out a million times better. I think coaching is so powerful, so powerful.
Because I'm a professional trainer as well. And as you said, to me, training is imparting information.
That's it.
Whereas coaching is really, it's including the participants. It's getting the participants, like this, taking personal responsibility and being accountable for the information that is being imparted.
Yes, and sometimes even we all make mistakes, but sometimes you'll hear somebody saying to me, well, Mary, that wasn't my fault. And I'd say, okay, let's go back over that. What part of this did you participate in? And where was your responsibility at the time? Because sometimes people glide over things that happen and they kind of say, oh, well, it wasn't my responsibility. And actually you're the coach and you're saying, well, I'm not going to tell them that it was. You're going to coach them until they realize, actually, it was my responsibility and it was my choice, because some people.
We all have choice.
So
a lot of people, I think through society now, people are just going with the flow. I have no choice. But we all have choice. And that is something we have to reclaim. As you say, reclaiming the personal power is understanding we all have choice.
Yes. Yeah. Because we
I
do.
love that how you say personal power, personal responsibility, taking personal accountability for mindset is reclaiming personal power. I love that. I love it.
And it is true, though. That's what we are doing. We reclaim it, And I mean, what I find as well with people taking personal responsibility, they're willing as leaders to admit to their mistakes. They're willing to say, I actually saw that, or I didn't see that coming, or whatever. And that gets the other people to trust them because they're willing to do that. And it builds trust as well.
Yeah, it does. And also, what you've said is when we take that personal responsibility and accountability, we don't become overwhelmed with fear.
True. Oh, that's so true. Yeah, yeah. Now, we have a load of different acronyms, for fear. One of them is false evidence appearing real, which I like a lot. False evidence appearing real. That's what fear is. False, FEAR, false evidence appearing real. And I like it because that's who was it that I went to once and they said, we are the story that we tell ourselves. So if we tell ourselves this, and that leads to anxiety, of course. So if we tell ourselves a frightening story, we create fear and anxiety. And the only way through fear, as you know, is walking through it. And Lord, I don't know if Susan Jefferson's still alive, but she had that brilliant book.
That book.
Fear and Good. Anyway. Yeah. I went to her. Yeah, and she was brilliant. I mean, she really opened up my mind because some amount of fear is good for us. Some amount of fear warns us about a situation. There's a brilliant book by Gavin Beck called The Gift of Fear. A bit frightening now. I wouldn't say read it on your own because at the beginning of it goes into fear, but a very good book. But it makes you realize that a little piece of fear, it stops you from being complacent, Yeah. So it's not that it's all negative. It's just that we need to walk through what we are fearful of.
And when you have that little bit of fear, it connects you to your senses.
Yes.
It connects you to your intuition. When you take personal responsibility and accountable for, maybe if you're a leader, you're accountable for your team. So you've got to get that team to safety if there's any kind of fear. So you're connected to your intuition.
Yes. Yeah, which is very powerful. Very, very powerful. Yeah.
I like that. And also, when you take personal responsibility, you say that you're not fearful about taking risks or making a decision.
Yeah, you see, some people, now I know it depends on your temperament. Some people are born to take more risks than others. And I know if, if you're going for, what is it, insurance, life insurance or something, you could say, well, I'm prepared to take that much risk. You know what I mean? But when you are in your own personal power, you will be able to access and make decisions more clearly because you know yourself, you know what you're able to do and accountable for, and then you can make clear decisions. Whereas if you're not being true to yourself and you're not acting out of your own personal responsibility, you might not see it. You might not even think about it, and you probably will hide behind taking risks.
Yeah. And
Hide.
again, we go back to that point is you don't point the finger of responsibilities on others rather than yourself. I like that when you said that.
Yeah, and that is so true because a lot of us are inclined to, it's like, I always remember, I know I give that example, but I always remember this girl coming in and like giving out hell about men, and she'd had some good relationships and some bad ones. And then she said, well, the last one my friend introduced me to, and let's say her name is Sarah, I can't remember. She goes, and I blame Sarah. If Sarah hadn't introduced me to her, I wouldn't have gone out with him and I wouldn't have wasted my time with him. And I'm going, hold on now. She only introduced you. The choice, personal responsibility was for you to decide to go out with him or not. Like, but she was actually blaming a friend for introducing her, and that's where we can fall down sometimes. We're blaming others for what we need to take responsibility for, and that takes more courage as well.
Yeah, it does. I
Yeah,
think again, we're going to the courage and being brave. When you take personal responsibility and you're accountable for your mindset, it's actually, you don't have to dig deep down inside yourself for that courage or that bravery.
that's so
You've
true.
connected it to it.
You are connected to it. You are. Yeah. That's what is exactly what it is. And sometimes with challenges as well, when you're faced with a challenge, when you are connected to yourself and you're taking personal responsibility, you are able to decipher the challenge and break it up and say, right, that part I can handle, this part I need help with, or whatever it might be. Whereas if you're not taking personal responsibility, it's like they put their head in the sand.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They put their head in the sand. You don't want to see it, you know. I often ask them, and in a nice way, I often ask them, what reality are you living in?
Mm.
Because our perceptions are reality.
Yeah.
So if they're living in the past reality of what happened, why, and if, and all of that, well, they're not living in the present moment consciousness.
No.
They're not living in this reality.
And I think when you take personal responsibility, a lot of people, who have, because we've all had trauma in our lives, and you mentioned that in your book, we've all had trauma in our lives.
Yeah.
But when we take personal responsibility, we can change that energy shift. And that brings me on lovely to our next point. That can get you out of stuck situation of being stuck in the past because you are taking personal responsibility and being accountable for your mindset, therefore your emotions. And so therefore you go, okay, well, this trauma happened to me in the past. I got out of that trauma, but the responsibility is not being stuck in the trauma of the past and in the past of that trauma.
When I say it's a difficult one, it's a challenging one because unfortunately, even though they're in the past, the neuropathic part of the brain sometimes brings it back as if it's happening now again.
Yeah.
That can be difficult. But as you said, when you're self-aware and you know what's happening, you can say that was then, not now. That was then. I'm out of it now. Look what I learned. And that it might come up as a memory, but I'm moving on from it. I'm moving on.
You're not connected to that
And
energy and frequency and vibration of the trauma.
yeah, you're not, no. And that takes a lot. I mean, that takes people that, that are quite self-aware to realize that when it's coming up, what is the reason I'm feeling like that,
And before I move, so I want to talk a bit as well, but that even we talk about frequencies and energy and vibrations, but also taking personal responsibility and being accountable for our mindset is a completely different vibration. The vibration, the energy, the vitality is there.
It is. And I must say, when you are taking personal responsibility, you're far more clear and concise about what you're looking for in the future.
Yes.
You know, you're able to articulate exactly, you know, what I'm looking for, and you're very clear about it, you know, and
Yeah.
that's really beautiful when you do take personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I remember saying as well, and I can only speak for myself, but when you lose a parent when you're quite young,
Yeah.
somebody asked me the question, like, when does people start realizing the need to take personal responsibility? And the answer is you cannot dictate when. Some
Yeah.
people will start taking personal responsibility after they've lost the mother or something when they're quite young. They will definitely go quicker into taking personal responsibility. Well, really, they don't have any choice, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to contradict myself there. They do have a choice. They do have a choice. But I mean, I would know, you know, not having your mum around for any occasion was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. And the first thing to be looking for is, where's your mum? Where's your mum? Get her into the folders. And there's no mum. And I
Yeah.
must say, yeah, so I'd say you grow up quicker. You do grow up.
Yes.
But other people actually, they'll go through life for quite a while before they start taking personal
Yeah.
responsibility. They can go through a lot of things before they start taking personal responsibility.
We talk about personal responsibility. I put it in the note in the book where it said, and I put down Africa and Saudi Arabia, because when we lived in Africa, you know, we had help within the house. And one thing my mother was insistent, the housekeepers were not allowed to actually clean our rooms or make our beds. We had to do that ourselves.
Right.
And at the so we that was you know, they were not allowed to go into our room. We had to have that
Yeah.
personal responsibility, making our bed, keeping our room clean, and looking after our clothes.
Yeah.
Then we had dinner at 8 o'clock every night. So the housekeeper laid the table. We had to help the housekeeper lay the table
Mhm.
and put the food on the table. Then the housekeeper went and had their dinner. Then after that, my sister, we had a dishwasher, but my sister and my mother and sisters, we had to wash up, dry up, and put away.
Right. And that's very good because that was coming, you know, from your mum, and giving you responsibility like that and those little chores are excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
And we had in Saudi Arabia, we had horses. We had stables with 5 horses, and we had a groom. But before school each morning, my mother said, "Get up 6 o'clock, get down to the stables, muck out, feed the horses, and if we had time, exercise. But get out, go down, muck out, feed the horses, come back, have a shower before we started our schoolwork."
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so
Mm.
that really taught me the work ethic of taking responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot in that in you know, discipline as well, because all of that is discipline. You know,
Yeah,
discipline is very good for us. Punishment isn't, and there's a big difference, you
yeah,
know, with parents with children, like discipline is excellent, but punishment isn't.
yeah,
Because anyway, there's another whole area,
yeah,
you know, but yes, very good. And like people like that, like yourself, then would learn really quickly how to have personal responsibility at a
yeah.
very young age.
And you know, we were talking about feelings before we went on to the you know, personal responsibility. When I went off on a tangent, and I love the way you say, you know, the personal responsibility. You are solely responsible for the choices you made and how you feel as well. Feeling how you feel
That's a
is your
really,
responsibility.
really important one. I was to live in a workshop for a while ago, also a long time ago now, and when I made that statement, a lady in the audience said, "How do you mean you're responsible for how you feel at any given time?" And I said, "But you are."
Yeah,
I said, "If you become your own observer, you can
yeah,
actually become observing how you're about to go and how your emotions are coming up. And you can stop from going to be, let's say you're heading towards being angry, you can stop yourself because you become aware of how you're feeling. We are in charge, well, not all of the time, most of the time, of how we feel. Like in emotional intelligence, we are in charge of being able to respond rather than react to people. It takes a lot of learning, it takes a lot of practice, but we are. And we determine what we focus on. We determine what we give energy to. And this, as you know, is all the mindset.
yeah,
We determine it. We determine if we're going to look at something from the past and let it come up and play the broken record again and again and again. We determine that, or we kind of go, that was then, not now, and moving on, you know. I don't think people realize how powerful we are with our minds. I don't think so.
yeah. I don't
I don't
think they
think
do.
so. Really, I don't think so. And I think I will say I learned when I walked the fires in Anthony Robbins, because you walk cold. You know,
I
fire.
love Ant. I really, he's brilliant.
I adore the
Although I
man.
haven't gone that far with the walking on fire.
Well, that made me realize how strong our mind is, because we had to disconnect our emotions from our feet, or our feet would have burnt. And I remember thinking, we could do this. We can do this with our mind. We can, you know, we are in charge of what we think, which will bring about what we believe, which will bring about our emotions, that will bring about the behavior, that will bring about the outcome. We are in charge.
Yeah.
And that's what I think personal responsibility is all about. Like, even what you think about, we're in charge of.
Yes.
And what we
All
focus on,
about,
we expand on.
yeah. We
Yeah.
choose our thoughts.
We do. And yes. And I mean, I know one person in particular, and every time I talk to them now, they are a family member, but every time I talk to them, it's like the woes in the world, and any country you mention, oh, there's an awful lot of killing out there. And I'm going, my God, the lenses he sees the world through is so negative. However, I'm so close to the person, I cannot be their coach. I cannot, as you know, I cannot get them to see the life in a different picture, in a different lens. But if you look for the good in people, you'll find it. If you look for the bad in people, you'll also find it. I was
Yeah.
given that message at a very young age, and it's so true.
Yeah.
And the same about life. What we look at, what we focus on, we expand on.
And again, like Dr. Wayne Dwyer says, do you see yourself living in a friendly world or hostile world?
Yeah. He would ask that question. He would, yeah. He was
And
brilliant.
Anthony Robbins would say small steps for giant steps. I love that. Because if you, I always say, if you're changing a habit, make it in small steps. Take small steps instead of
Yes.
just going full. You know, chunk everything down.
Yeah.
Small steps, because
Yeah.
when you take small steps, you're looking at the longer picture for the outcome to stay longer. So if you just jump into it, oh, I'm taking personal responsibility, you're not in that present moment.
No, so true. Very, very, very true. I think with everything, really, steps are, yeah. And I think one of the most frequently used words in the world is baby steps.
Yes.
It's actually so used by so many people, but it is true, because some of us want a big bite of the elephant straight there and then. You can't do it. You can't.
You can't do it.
No.
Just be small, and you learn far more. You take the personal learning from the small steps.
Yeah.
And the personal learning is all part of taking personal responsibility and being accountable for your mindset and your actions and behaviors and feelings.
Yeah, exactly. And as they say, it's not the destination, it's the journey going there that we learn.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it's
love that. I love
never,
that.
and it's so true though. I mean, we're always happy when we achieve something, of course, you know, and it's great. But it's the journey that got you there is where all the learning takes.
Yeah, it is. And then the small steps.
Yeah.
And you also say, you know, that you are solely responsible for the choices we've made in our lives. You know, we spoke about that a bit earlier, but we are only us are responsible for the choices we make.
Yeah.
We're not responsible for the choices other people make, and where and we're not taking personal responsibility is setting the boundaries. Once you know what the boundaries are, that you're not going to take anyone else dumping their lack of personal responsibility for blaming you for their choices in life.
Yes, and also, unfortunately, with all of us in life, when we look back in retrospective and we look back on our life, every one of us have made mistakes and made the wrong choice.
Hands
Now,
up.
yeah, and this is really important. If you look back in your life and you blame yourself for those mistakes, you will never move on. You will never move on. You see, it's not just about, when you take personal responsibility, it's not just about not blaming other people. It's also about you being compassionate towards yourself and not blaming yourself. There's not one of us that I know that hasn't made mistakes, and you look back and say, how could I have done that? Or how could I have said that? But you must give yourself that unconditional love and acceptance and compassion. You must, because if you don't do it to yourself, you cannot give it to others. You just can't. How can you give somebody else what you don't have for yourself?
Yeah.
You can't. So you can't understand that someone else making a mistake if you haven't been kind to yourself and you've made your mistakes. And forgive yourself, actually, that's another one. Forgiving the choices you made. And that's another thing I would say. You're here today because the choices you made, and you're also here today because the choices you refused to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that one. The choices you refuse to make. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then building into that is we are here today because the questions we've asked ourselves. We're also here today because the questions we were afraid to ask ourselves. You know, we can be in either place there, you know, because sometimes like questions are so powerful, but sometimes we're terrified of asking the question.
You have just given me an answer to something I've been asking myself,
Really?
right? And it was about a choice I made, right? And but in that choice I made, it was the choices I didn't make that got me here today to the person I am.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So thank you. Wow, that's a massive light bulb moment in if someone was to ask me about a question about a choice I made, you have just given me the wording to actually say thank you for that. What that's really but no, but that's a real wow, that's a real big moment for me because it was something very big that was holding me back.
Wow.
Thank you, Mary.
Not at all. Rosie, I just love the whole area. And as you say, when we're in a moment like this, you know, this comes out, you know, we don't have a script. It just comes
Yeah,
out whenever it
it
comes
just
out.
comes
You
out. We
know?
yeah. So
Yeah.
that say that again. It's the choices we made, yet it's the choices we did. We did. It was the choices that we decided not to make.
Also, yeah.
Also, it's powerful because we've
Well,
all made mistakes.
yeah,
We've all been brought in. We've all been, you know, wow. And that's where age and wisdom, knowledge and experience comes in.
I would definitely say so. Yeah. Yes, yes. It's where it sits. It's where you kind of go and being able to say, well, I'm here because I didn't make that choice. And I'm okay with myself being here. But then you might say, let's say you're annoyed with where you are. Well, if you're annoyed with where you are, what are you going to do about it now in the present? You know what I mean? You still want to take personal responsibility. You can't be kind of going, well, that's because I made that choice. Because then you've gone back blaming that time. And that was when you made that choice. You've come back into the moment and just say, well, I'm here now. What am I going to do about it now? You know, what can I do about it?
Mary, thank you so much. You just get thank you. And I hope someone listening or watching this gets that aha moment listening to that what I got. Thank you. Because that is you probably can see I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited of that person regaining just that with that sentence, I've regained personal power over that one thing.
Oh, yeah, that's brilliant.
The
That's
personal,
really,
I'm going away with more personal power from talking to you this morning. Thank you. Wow. I just thank you.
no, I mean, it's a pleasure, Roshan, because I mean, it's all about our life. It's all about, you know, choice. Everything in life is about, you know, do we take responsibility or not, you know?
And when I said that, because I got all my little notes on the phone, but like it was 1212. That was an angel number, 1212. When I said, no, thank you for that. And I just looked, it was 1212.
That's interesting. That is,
Isn't it?
yeah,
Wow. Well, that's just, my eyes are all welled up. Isn't it amazing that just hearing words? So that is something that for the younger women is going to be powerful, Mary. Those words. Yes, we're responsible for choices we made, but you know, there's also when you think about if you made mistakes or wrong choices, think about the choices you didn't make
yeah,
and how they outweighed
yeah,
the choices that we think we have that emotional connection
yes,
to.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's again, it's to be kind to ourselves when we see which ones served us and which ones didn't, you know, because some
Yeah.
choices didn't serve us. And at the time, we thought it was the best we could do at that time, you know? Yeah.
And this brings me back to this is that you choose the direction in your life. You cannot blame others for the choices you've made. I like that. You choose the direction in your life.
Well, I certainly know I have. I love DSP and all of that, but I mean, I went a whole different direction. And I remember reading the book, the book, is it Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled and
Yes.
Beyond. And I remember reading this and saying, oh, but that's what I've done. I took the road less traveled. Do I regret it? Absolutely not at all. But we are in charge of the direction we are going. We are in charge. Like we are all in charge, are all solely responsible for the direction we're going. And we can change that trajectory anytime we want. We can change it. We can stop and say, this isn't serving me. I'm going to go a new route. I'm going to go a different way. You can,
And
it's all about choice.
It's all about choice, and it's all about choosing. It's all about choice, and it's choosing our values in life.
Yeah, it has to be linked to our values without a doubt. Yeah. And do you remember as well, Roshan, we would have done this in our coaching. We all change and develop. And as we change and develop, the hierarchy of our values, our core and personal values change. They change.
Yes,
like an example would be, I still love traveling, so it's up there high. But as I get older, my health is getting higher. My health now is higher than travel.
Yes.
When I was in my 30s, without doubt, travel would have been higher than my health. You know what I mean? So we do change the hierarchy of our values as we go on in life. It's very important to realize,
When you think of values, and we think about personal responsibility and being accountable, as the title of your book says, I'm all emotional, that life begins when you're ready to listen. And I truly believe is when we take when we decide to take that personal accountability.
Yes.
And accountability, it is only happens when we are ready to listen.
Oh, great. God, I agree totally with you. Because, we get the messages, but we might not be ready to listen. And we get them, remember, internally from our intuition and our inside core of ourselves. And we also get them sometimes from the people outside in our lives. But if we're not ready to listen, we're not ready to make a choice.
Yeah. I'm gonna so for anyone who get out and purchase this book will change your life. This book, it will be just that little book that you can have on at home in a day or 2-day weekend self-retreat at home. You don't have, and just sitting on, I did it sitting on that sofa there. And and I had nice food and everything, and I just stayed at home all by myself that weekend. And I had my very own little self-retreat that I said in the very beginning of our first interview. But I'm going to read this in chapter 5, taking personal responsibility, taking charge of your life. I'm going to give out what I got from this. And claiming your personal power. And the triangle, I like that triangle that we showed you at the beginning. And once you realize and accept it was your own decision, that choices brought you where you are today, you can free yourself from any blame and begin to take actions to change your life. I love that.
Yeah. And that's the part that we do need. We need to be compassionate towards ourselves and then others, because, as we know, we all are human. And we all, I always say that's why Tipex was invented, because we make mistakes. We're human, and it's just to learn from them. And that's,
yeah. And I also love this too, because this is really important. When you stay in your comfort zone, you're not taking personal responsibility. And for this reason, you will not expand, learn, or change.
It's so true. It is so, so true. You just stay stagnant, which doesn't help you at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's your next word, you stay stagnant. Your book is good, Aunt Mary. And I also love is when you stay stagnant and you're playing the blame game, you become very overly self-critical for actions that you may have taken in the past. And that's where we were talking about that earlier on. However, blaming yourself has the same negative effects as blaming others. And the main point to remember is that the past cannot be undone.
Yeah. It's so, so true.
And we've mentioned taking personal responsibility and being accountable for your own actions. It's a habit and a mindset.
Yeah, it is. It is a habit because once you get into doing it, you continue then taking personal responsibility, and it becomes automatic then as a habit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're stuck, you have that imposter syndrome. And when you take personal responsibility, you don't have, and being accountable for your mindset, you don't have imposter syndrome.
It's so true. That is so true.
I love that.
No, it is really true, Rosie. It's true.
Yeah,
It's really true. Yeah.
I really related to that. That was like, yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah. Because like the imposter syndrome comes in through our doubts and us knocking ourselves. So when we're not doubting ourselves, when we're not knocking ourselves, and we're taking personal responsibility, there's no room for the imposter syndrome to breathe. There's no room for
No,
it to breathe. No.
because when you take personal responsibility and accountability, you know yourself. You know what your values are. You know what your purpose and intention is. You know what your beliefs are. You
Yeah.
know, and you as you said, we mentioned earlier, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. And you know you don't put yourself in an environment which is going to be negative or draining you. You stay in an environment, you take personal responsibility for your own environment.
Yeah. You do. You choose where to hang around and
I
where to.
love that. Now, this book is amazing. And two is when you take personal responsibility, you're happy with your life and
Yeah.
it's happiness.
Yeah, and happiness is so important. It is because it's in the moment. Happiness, you can be happy right now, but you're that bit more happy when you're taking personal responsibility.
And you recognize the truth of any situation.
Yes, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, Mary. Wow. And taking personal responsibility can be challenging. You acknowledge that in the
Yeah,
book.
yeah, it can be. It can be, yeah.
It,
Some
it
people are
can be very
better than
challenging.
others, yeah. Some are better and able to take it. Like, and it's all because some people have different resources that they got through life than others. Some others have more resources, so they're stronger in being able to do it.
Yeah. And you know what? Challenge is good for us. We need challenges in life for personal growth
Yes,
and to get out of comfort zones and to actually know that, that's a challenge, but that self-confidence and that mindset of
yeah,
personal responsibility goes, yes, I have challenges. What are my choices? What are my options? How am I going to that's where you get the goal setting. How
yeah,
am I going to get from here? How am I going to overcome the challenges, the obstacles, the hurdles in
yeah,
the way to
yeah,
over this challenge?
yeah.
That's personal responsibility. I love it, Mary. And when you take personal responsibility and actions that gosh, I have it there. I'm just so delighted. You are in control of your actions, and that's freedom.
Yeah. Very,
And
very, yeah,
I love the part too where at the end of the chapter where you say, when you take personal responsibility, I mentioned this earlier, you are always learning and contributing to society.
yeah. Yes, it's true. Yeah,
And that's the most powerful thing you can do is contribute to society
yeah,
with honesty, with integrity,
yes.
and not talking about anybody who's not in the room.
Yes, exactly.
And you're true to your values.
Yeah, yeah,
Mary Curran, I have really, really got so much out of this interview, me personally, and I am going away energized with vitality. And thank you for giving me that personal freedom of what you said about, yeah, we have the choices, and we've all made choices that, we make choices that we're not happy with now all the
mhm,
time, but
mhm,
it's the choices we didn't make
yeah,
that makes us the person we are today
yeah,
and where we are.
yeah, yeah.
That's a real light bulb moment that released something that was stagnant in me.
My heavens, right? No, I know that happens. It does happen for us in coaching, where it's just something comes in and you kind of go, I never would have thought of it like that, or I
Yeah,
wouldn't have considered it like that. It's always those moments that are really worthwhile and fruitful, isn't it? Yeah.
Mary, remind our listeners and our viewers where we can contact the book, source the book, and how we can contact you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So my website is marycurran.ie. And then you can get the book from, if you contact me on the website, my email is there, marycurran@coachcenter.com. Or else you can buy it on amazon.co.uk or amazon.com or where it's printed by Ball Press. Yeah. And then, like, if you wanted, like, you can just email me and I'll get you a copy, whatever.
We'll do that, and we'll put your email address and the link to your website in the description box below as we do.
Great. Oh,
Mary Curran, as always, it's an absolute honor and a treasure. I treasure these Monday mornings when we meet up, because wow, it just reunites that energy, that vitality, and my vibrations and my frequencies to just really who I am.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
coaching's about, is connecting us all. For me, and I know for you, connecting us to who we are.
Yes, that's what it is about. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely being true to ourselves and connecting ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mary Curran, thank you so much indeed again for talking to Confident Women Island. And, you know, there's so many more chapters we're going to talk about in the book. We'll leave that one now as a surprise for the next one. And, but we definitely will. But we're not giving too much away from
No.
the books, because
Yeah.
you need to buy this book, and it's so reasonable, and it's just the book of 2024. Very good.
Thank,
Thank you so much
thank
indeed.
you, Roisin. Thank you.